Avoid your finances because you don't care. You avoid them because not knowing feels safer than facing what the truth might expose. And if you stick around, I'll teach you 3 ways on how to improve from that. And my name is Oscar. I'm a wealth coach and an investor. And from here, I teach about financial intelligence and the things that we didn't learn growing up. And the first problem you may be facing is through money avoidance. And you avoid opening your bills, your checking account, and looking at your debt and reviewing spending because money has become emotionally heavy. And since it's become emotionally heavy, on the surface it looks like procrastination, but underneath it often feels like self-protection. And when money has been tied to fear, pressure, or shame for too long, even looking at the numbers can feel overwhelming. And avoidance starts feeling safer than awareness, even when the problem quietly grows in the background. And that avoidance starts feeling safer than awareness, even while the problems grow quietly in the background. The second problem that you may be facing is shame and helplessness. And for a lot of people, that pain is not just the numbers itself, meaning your bank account numbers. It's also the numbers that seem to mean. Debt can feel like failure. Low savings can feel like weakness, and financial confusion can feel humiliating. And I've seen this from time to time again, where someone has to pay their bill if they have a loan credit debt on their credit report and they don't want to pay it. They feel humiliated. Even to this day, if I can't buy it, I feel some type of way. But rather than me focusing on it, I let myself know, hey, you can't get it right now, you can get it later. You have to establish self-discipline. Instead of using information to solve the problem, you stay distant from it to avoid the emotional hit. And what looks like avoidance is most times anxiety of what the truth might confirm about you. What you believed for so long has become your identity. And rather than you facing the truth, and rather than what the truth might confirm about you, you would rather just hide from it and not face it head on. The third problem that you might be facing is the avoider pattern. And after enough repetition, this becomes a cycle that keeps reinforcing itself. And the person avoid the numbers. You feel temporary relief and you get hit with even more stress later because nothing was addressed. You didn't challenge it. You didn't change it. You didn't bring it to your attention. You just kind of tucked it under the rug and just put it on the back burner, so to speak. Rather than you facing it head on, you allow it to become something more and more until it became worse than what it was before. That same cycle that teaches your brain that distance feels safer than clarity. So even when you want peace, control, and stability, you keep staying disconnected from the very thing that could be helping you build it. Rather than you being able to be focused on savings, having a real plan, or knowing exactly where your money is going, you just kind of shrug it off, but you're still living the paycheck and wondering why ends aren't meeting or why you're barely even keeping up. And as you see these gas prices going up, you're still complaining about the gas prices. You feel like that the gas is being watered down. There are videos that I've seen on TikTok and on YouTube where content creators are literally going to the gas stations and testing whether or not the gas is watered down or having too much ethanol in it. What do I mean by this? People are literally going out there to test it, not only just for the views and the clicks, but to see if it's actually happening. And majority of the videos that I've seen, not one of them has shown watered down or more than 10% ethanol. It's all about the mindset. Since we know that gas has gone up and we have an anxiety of where our money is going, rather than us focusing on having just enough or having an abundance, we see the lack by the stress that the increased prices are having while our income is not going up. And since we don't have a stream of income to take care of those certain everyday items that we need, such as food and gas, our mentality switches to survival mode. So we assume that the gas is burning up quicker than it was a couple months ago. But the same thing happened in 2020. That $20 seemed like it's not having an effect. It's all psychological based. When you focus on something and then you start believing something to be true, most times than not, it's not true. And the gas is not burning quicker than it was before. I know because I looked at my mileage. I still put in the same amount of gas. And even though the gas the price has gone up $10, my gas still maintains the same amount that it does. I barely go anywhere. All I do is just go back to work and go home. And if anything, I've actually saved a little bit on gas because now I got a mini fridge where I'm at and I put my groceries in there. So rather than me going out day to day buying food, I'm not burning up the 60 miles each and every week additionally to go get food. So it's just all based on your perspective. And here's the thing that nobody's going to tell you. And I'm going to just be straight up with you because I've been straight up with myself and other people have been straight up with me. Stop blowing your money on unnecessary things. And I know this sounds kind of harsh, but if you're really not doing what you have to look at your finances, if you're not reviewing your credit score every month, if you're not looking at your credit card statements, if you're not paying your bills on time, if you're being irresponsible to yourself, you're going to be irresponsible to other people. Responsibility builds up discipline. You have to have a set routine, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. Ensure that you're looking over your finances, know where your money is going. Because if you're not, you're being irresponsible as an adult. I've seen it many times over and over because I've done it myself. If you're not spending your money the right way and you're letting it just go down a drain, buying expensive designer stuff, buying stuff that doesn't even make sense, like Supreme shirts, Supreme backpack, out there buying Gucci, whatever it is you like. And then back in the day, I used to love going to H&M, buying tons of stuff that I didn't need. And as soon as it came to paying for my bills, guess what? I was always short on my money. And then I would have to go and borrow from other people. That's what led me to be in credit card debt for so long. I've just finally paid off all my credit cards that I had in the past. Finally settling debts that should have been taken care of years ago. It's because I didn't have a plan set in place. I just allowed that stuff to sit there, being like, oh, I got time. But then guess what? A few years later came, I have new responsibilities. I have to have new sources of money. And that cost me when I wasn't able to get housing. An apartment, I had to put extra money down that I did have, but it was for savings. And I had to pull that out just to get the place that I'm at now. Then I had to ensure that my collections were removed in order to get a house. It's impossible to get financing for a house if you got bad credit. Yes, they can tell you that they're going to get you in position to get a home, but chances are if you're not responsible with your money and you're doing the bare minimum, not to get by, but the bare minimum to just even have discipline with just even $1, who's going to trust you with $100? I couldn't even trust myself with $100, let alone somebody else trusting me with $100. But now being a wealth advisor, I guide people in their portfolios and I tell them exactly where they need to be because I'm serving them based on what their desires and their needs are. I'm actually listening to them. And then it got me to thinking, have I been listening to myself? What client would want someone who doesn't know how to handle their money to touch their money? It had me wondering, why was I not getting clients? It was based on how I was talking, my appearance, but more importantly, how I looked when I had money. I had certain looks, expressions that I didn't even realize I had. And it all started with avoiding. And once I stopped avoiding it and I started actually focusing on how to be intent with my money and having a set plan and schedule for everything, then everything started making sense. And I told you I was going to get you 3 steps on how to get improved. But just before I get there, let me tell you this. In Genesis 3, after Adam and Eve became aware of their condition, their first response was to hide. Exposure felt dangerous, so distance felt safer. The same cycle still shows up to people now. And when somebody does something wrong financially, instead of facing it, you would rather hide from your bills, you would rather hide from your debt, that balance, or the conversation. We have to be responsible with our conversations, even if we're in a relationship. That's very big key. The issue isn't just the money. It's the anxiety of what exposure might make them feel. What you hide from can keep ruling you until the truth becomes safer than the distance. And here's the lie that you always tell yourself. If I don't look at it, I won't have to feel it. That belief teaches your brain to prefer numbness over clarity, but the relief is temporary. Avoidance lowers your tension now while increasing it later. It may feel good in a moment, but over time, the brain starts associating the truth with danger. and distance with relief, which is why the pattern can feel so hard to break. But here's the truth. The truth is that clarity is not your enemy. One of the forms of stewardship. And in Proverbs 27:23 it says, "Know well the condition of your flocks and give attention to the herds." You cannot manage well what you refuse to know. The shift here is not from failure to perfection, it's from avoider to aware steward. You're not trying to become a different person overnight. You're taking the first steps toward becoming someone who can face the truth without running from it. And it shapes you to become the person you need to become. And that's what establishes your identity. Solution 1 is naming the real problem. The first step is to stop calling this laziness. The real issue may be that financial awareness has overloaded you emotionally. Once you name it honestly, you stop attacking yourself and you start wondering where the cycle came from, what the cycle is, and you start understanding it. That matters because shame keeps you stuck, but clarity gives you somewhere to begin. When you understand it and you know where it's coming from and how to handle it, when you have that plan and that system set out, rather than focusing on the lie, being like, oh, it's not there. Once you finally name it, then you stop hiding and you go towards your goal. The second solution to the problem is exposing the hidden lie. The hidden lie is not knowing what protects me, but not knowing does not protect you. It only delays what needs attention. It gives you short-term emotional relief while making long-term peace harder to build. And once you see that, avoidance stops looking like safety and starts looking like a cycle you can interrupt. In order to face that cycle head on, and once you expose the lie, then the truth becomes a lot more clarity. It starts to become more understandable. By knowing the truth will set you free. The third solution is to take one small step. The first step is to create one weekly money check-in, 10 minutes a day, or even just one account and one bill, one category, nothing more. Don't try to fix everything at once, just practice looking. The goal is not perfection. You have to first become aware, even if it's just one subject, one location, one item. What do I mean? Take one bank account, one credit card, and review it monthly. Set it on auto pay. And once you know what's being spent and how it's being spent, utilize it less often. And then take the next step for the next credit card and the next bank account. And so on until you have a routine set to where everything is taken care of automatically. And you unload the stress. You have to stop trying to fix everything at once. Just practice looking. The goal isn't perfection. Your goal is to be teaching your mind that awareness is survivable. That one habit starts rebuilding trust with truth. And a problem that we may see with that is that a lot of us avoid finances, but we're not indifferent. We're just emotionally flooded. And if we grew up around panic, being confused about money secrecy, or even shame about what we do with our money and the result of it, then financial information itself can start feeling threatening. And avoidance becomes a coping strategy because it reduces tension in the moment. But that same coping strategy quietly trains you to fear clarity, to have anxiety over it. This is why the first step of financial healing is often not budgeting harder, but making awareness feel safe enough to return to. And it can be scary when that type of thing is shown, but once you realize it and you expose it for what it is, then you can change. And what I want you to do is to follow and like, and please share this. And I want you to comment aware if you want to start building your stability stage version of your Here are some finance tips that you cannot miss. And most of you don't need more random finance advice. You need few money habits that stop pressure from running your life. You may feel behind with money because you keep hearing too much advice at once. You always hear people say save more, invest more, budget better, fix your credit, start a side hustle, stop spending, build wealth. The problem is just not the lack of information. The problem is overload with order. When everything feels important, you often end up doing nothing consistently. You keep on redoing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. You're trying to do multiple things at once, stretching yourself too thin, rather than focusing on one thing and completing it. And you wonder why you're not getting anywhere with all these multiple strategies that seem to fail all the time. You may also be facing pressure without structure. And for many of us, money feels stressful because we're always reacting to bills, we're reacting to emergencies or emotions, and instead of following a system. One week you're motivated, and the next week you're avoiding everything. And that's why for many people, they say they want financial peace, but instead they still live in that same financial pressure. Without structure, money keeps feeling personal, emotional, and heavy. And the third thing that you can be facing is saying that I'm bad with money, identity. And after enough confusion and consistency, you start seeing yourself as someone who just doesn't get money. You call yourself bad with finances, you call yourself undisciplined, or you're always behind. But often, that identity is being built from lack of structure, not lack of ability. And when you keep repeating chaos long enough, you start believing that that chaos is who you are. And the problem that you also may be facing, the real insight, is that you feel like you're failing because you're lazy with money. But that may not be the case. You fail because you're trying to solve systems, problems with occasional motivation. Money stress often creates avoidance, and that avoidance makes even basic financial tasks feel heavier than they really are. And once shame gets attached to money, you stop engaging with it honestly. That's why simple financial tips matter most when you reduce overwhelming and you start creating clarity and you give yourself one repeatable action. The deeper psychology to this is that you trust what feels manageable. When money feels too big, you pull away. And when it feels structured, you re-engage. And here is some biblical proverb for you. Proverbs 6:6-8 says that an ant is an example of wisdom, not because it's rich, loud, or impressive, but it prepares with consistency. The ant gathers in the season and doesn't wait for panic to become productive. That same principle applies now. A lot of us wait until the bills are due or past due, until our balances are low, or until our stress is high before we finally start paying attention, before we finally get there to that oh no moment. Just before a vehicle comes to the tail end of another vehicle and you stop on the brakes just right there, that's when we finally pay attention. But wisdom doesn't wait for crisis to create order. When you gain peace with money, you're usually not the one with the most hype. You're the one with the most consistent stewardship. So being consistent is all you need to do. And some deeper psychology into the lie that we tell ourselves. This is what we say: I need to understand everything before I can start doing anything. That creates information overload, and then you start building complacency. Rather, belief keeps you frozen. It makes money feel like a subject to master all at once, instead of a system to build step by step. And you're wondering why you're still hopping from system to system, from side hustle to side hustle, saying that this is the one that's going to work. You're saying that this is the one that's going to change. And you repeat the same system, plug and play, expecting it to change the outcome. But you never stay consistent with it. And that's going to change today. Because if you stay stuck, you're going to be overwhelmed for inability. But confusion is not proof that you're bad with money. It's often proof that you need a simpler starting point. And the underlying truth is that financial peace usually begins with a few basic habits done consistently, not with mastering everything overnight. Proverbs 27:23 says, "Know well the condition of your flocks, and give attention to your herds." That means that you need to pay attention to what you're responsible for. The shift has to move from confused reactor to aware steward, from your emotional money management to intentional direction, and from I'm bad with money to I'm learning how to manage what's in my hands. And to my guys out there, this one's for you. Since we like to think logically, this is what we need to do. The first solution is to start with self-awareness. The first finance tip that you can't miss is this: know where your money is going. Yes, it's as simple as that. You don't need to have a spreadsheet or these pie charts or this entire book or this binder filled with information. You need awareness. If you do not know what's leaving your hands, you can't direct what stays in the system. It's like washing your hands and trying to figure out where the water is going. You're not going to figure it out. Even if you put a plug in the sink, there's still the water there. What you need is awareness. That's the beginning of stewardship. Don't be selfish with your finances mentally, emotionally, or logically. Understand that your money is for you to take care of yourself, but also for others. When you start acting and approaching your money in a way that helps others, even if you don't have the set to take care of them right now, if you have the intention of wondering what you can do with this money, then you can start figuring out systems on how you can help out yourself. Think about it like this. If you start wondering, oh yeah, I can buy this person a car, or I can invest in that for them, or if you know some information and you're like, oh yeah, let me tell you about this, especially like life insurance or a business or even at your job. If you've been doing it for so long, you know so much about it. And if you have the first intent to help somebody out, you can help yourself out first. And that's the first step to that awareness, is stewardship for yourself. The second solution is separating your money with purpose. The second finance tip that you can't miss is stop mixing all your money emotionally. You need to learn how to separate your bills. You need to learn how to separate your spending and your savings, and learn how to have extra money. And if you want that extra money, that's good. When everything sits in one place, it's easy for emotions and pressures to blur the job of every dollar. This is why some people have literal physical cans for their savings. They have one for a rainy day, one for life savings, one for food. It's all about portioning. And a simple separation system creates clarity faster rather than motivation. And that motivation will build eventually. And the third finance tip that you can't miss is to check your money every week before pressure checks it for you. 10 minutes, one day, the same time each week. That's all you need. Review what came in, review what went out, and what needs attention next. This small habit builds predictability, and that predictability builds peace. And once you know something that will happen before it does, you can make arrangements to change the outcome of it. If you can see something happening before it happens, you know not to go that way. And it's not just a common sense basis. It's literally just predictability. And once you already know the potential outcome, you can change it for it to become a desired outcome. It's just as simple as that. And if you feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck, or you just don't know what to do with the money that you have, if it's spare, if you don't know where your money is going, just stop for a moment, check your finances, hope that you'll be able to have that peace of mind of knowing where your paycheck is going, rather living paycheck to paycheck. And if you want a really good strategy on how to strategize your finance, I want you to comment down below in the comments, free, and then I'll give you the free guide directly in your DM. Or click the link in my bio and you can pre-order my book and sign up for my Wealth and Stuff Challenge, where I go into detail 5 days about simple finances, credit, and how to build a system to build a legacy and a trust for your family.